So we just finished seeing how we derived the IS curve from the Keynesian cross model. We can now use that Keynesian cross model to see how different changes in fiscal policy, changes in government spending or taxation, can influence the IS curve and thus aggregate demand. And so we can start with just that basic, straightforward Keynesian cross model to see how that's going to change the IS curve in response to changes in fiscal policy. And so we still have the same basic Keynesian cross. But we can now see how that's going to change in response to changes in government spending. So let's say that we start right here at Y1 with interest rate R1, okay? And we can go down here and derive that IS curve the same way we did last time. Let's say we have interest rate R1, and that's going to happen at income level Y1. So we'll have this IS curve right here. Now let's say the government increases spending. The increased spending that shifts this entire planned expenditure curve upwards. And so we move to PE is equal to C plus I, still of R1, plus G2. Okay, all we did was increase government spending. And when we increased government spending, it increased our total income. Why? For every interest rate. So interest rates are still R1. We just have a higher amount of government spending. And so we have this higher amount of income at interest rate R1. And so we're now at Y2. And so what we've done by increasing government spending is shift the IS curve outwards from IS1 to IS2. Basically, we raised the level of income for each interest rate. So to keep that straight, we can see that at any given level of R, an increase in government spending immediately passes through as higher planned expenditure. It has that same stimulative effect and still increases income the same way it did earlier. But because we now have interest rates, it's going to shift that entire IS curve to the right. For each given interest rate, we now have a higher level of income. And that horizontal distance that it's going to shift the IS curve, that's our government spending multiplier. And so if government spending goes up by $1, our total income, Y, is going to be that government spending multiplier amount higher. So if we go back to the whiteboard, this distance between where we were at R1 and where we are now at R1, that distance is our government spending multiplier. And so that shift in the IS curve from government spending comes directly from the government spending multiplier. So we can go the other way and see how taxation is going to change all of this. So we can derive the Keynesian cross just like we did before with changes in taxes. So we'll say we start right here. We'll say we start right here at Y1. Okay, so we have PE is still equal to C1 plus I R1 plus G. We have the same equilibrium condition. PE is equal to Y. But instead this time, let's say that we increase taxes. So when we increase taxes, we decrease disposable income. And when we decrease disposable income, we lower the amount of consumption that we have. That's going to look like a shift downwards in our planned expenditure curve. So we now have PE of C2 plus I still of R1 plus G. So if we come down here, to our IS curve, we started at interest rate R1, and at interest rate R1, we had income level Y1, just like before. And so we were left with the IS curve IS1 at Y1. But when we increase taxes, we decrease the amount of spending at each given interest rate. Holding interest rates constant, everybody was going to spend a little less. And that meant that at that same interest rate, we now had a lower level of spending. Basically, we had a leftward shift in the IS curve because of the increase in taxes. So that increase in taxes caused consumption to go down, which caused income to go down at each given interest rate. And so again, just to keep everything straight, at every given level of R, an increase in taxes is going to decrease consumption. Everybody has a little bit less money to spend. They have to devote more of their income to paying taxes. And when consumption goes down, planned expenditure naturally has to fall. And when planned expenditure falls, that shifts that IS curve to the left. Now, just like the government spending example, the distance that the IS curve shifts is the size of that tax multiplier. That change in income is going to be the negative marginal propensity to consume over 1 minus the MPC. And so that horizontal shift in the IS curve is going to be the size of that tax multiplier. And so the distance between Y1 and Y2, that is the tax multiplier. That is the total amount of spending that has decreased because of this tax increase at each given interest rate. And so all we've really done here is shown how spending changes, holding these interest rates constant. So we can see how policy can interact when we introduce an interest rate.